Good.
Good, good. Hey, Bill. Well, early on, I know it's a relatively small sample size. Despite going small, you're rebounding the ball pretty well. I think you're a +9 overall, and does that surprise you? And can you use that to your advantage? Creighton doesn't appear to be a great rebounding team.
But this time of year, stats are so skewed because you could, we got our butts whipped in the first game against Gonzaga, rebounding the ball, and then we rebounded it better since then. Kentucky was, I think we were +3 or +4, but it was pretty even, and Washburn kind of skewed it a little bit because of their size, but I do think that considering how small we're playing, 20, 25 minutes a game, I do think we've rebounded the ball pretty well, surprisingly well, especially on the offensive end.
How much does the 5 guard look help against a team like Creighton? They were talking a little earlier this morning about, you guys look like you play a lot like they do when you go small.
They actually run better stuff than we do small, because their positions are pretty interchangeable with their bigs, but they're playing pretty small themselves with Bishop at the 5. He's listed at 6'7", so I assume that's what he is. But so you could look at them and think that we're actually bigger than them across the board with the starters. But I think when we're still not used to playing this way. We didn't know that we were going to play this way at all. Maybe we put on our board that we have to be prepared to play small on both ends. At some point in time. So we probably practiced it, I'm not exaggerating, 15 minutes before we played Gonzaga. 3 different days, 5 minutes each. So that's not what we wanted to do. So we really haven't had the practice time to get good at it like they are, like Creighton is. But I think there are some similarities. I think you'll see, quite a few switches and things like that. And that's one thing about it. When you do switch a lot, even though they can create mismatches, it can take away the structure you're trying to run.
Bill, what does it say just about, the way you're playing, the way other teams are playing in college basketball? So this positionless idea that more and more coaches are going with.
Yeah, I think that the NBA has obviously shown that that's kind of the wave of the future. If, in a perfect world, if you think about it, I always look back to the 89 Flying Illini team as the perfect team because you had, 6'5" to 6'7", 6'8" across the board. So there was not a mismatch by switching. Everybody was long. Everybody could slide. Having their 5-man caught on a point or vice versa was actually not a big deal at all. And if you could recruit to that, I think that'd be a beautiful way to play all the time. The difference is with us, I've always thought the way you win games is to create easy baskets and to eliminate easy baskets, period. And through that, I've always felt you could do that by playing through your bigs more, and you had more rim protection with that. So that's kind of what we've always done. And certainly, the game has evolved a little bit now where, that effective field goal percentage is actually more important than your field goal percentage. Somebody shooting 33s and making 12, it may not look great statistically. It's far more efficient than somebody shooting 33s and making 16. 32s and making 16. So, everybody's kind of skewed it. So sometimes the emphasis on doing things the way that I've always done them in the past, I think is somewhat minimized by the arc without question. I always thought we were playing tiny when we played Doak and 4 guards. I thought that was tiny. And now we're playing 5 guards. And it's just totally different. And I've got to come up with some more unique ways to help them offensively, because defensively, I think we've held our own pretty good playing small.
Bill, if you were to critique your offense right now, what are some areas you feel like you guys could improve on?
Well, I think if you watch us, I think our patience isn't very good. I think that we're not a great ball moving team. We're not a great passing team to begin with. I mean, we're not going to have a guy like Creighton's got Marcus or Mitchell that just, you know, that's what they do. I mean, Marcus is a good passer, a good point guard, but he's not the kind of setup guard that you see at maybe a lot of places. So I think collectively as a unit, we can certainly pass it better. I think we've actually done a good job driving the ball, but we're driving the ball to score way too much. We did that against Kentucky a ton. I mean, you drive the ball and then you end up eating it, you know, when guards are trying to score over bigs, as opposed to just force enough help to make the next pass and then let him drive a bad closeout. And so I think there's some things like that we can do and we can get better at. Being better ball movers. You know, you don't need to have 5 guys that can beat you off the bounce. You need to have 2 or 3 guys that can beat you off the bounce, and 2 or 3 guys that can really move the ball quick or knock down open shots. And I think we haven't quite found ourselves in regards to exactly what scores the way we're trying to play.
Has that been an emphasis in trying to teach them, hey, here are some areas where you guys are driving it too deep?
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, absolutely, CJ. Yeah, we're trying to emphasize all those things, and I think the guys are learning. You know what? Hey, that North Dakota State game. I mean, I don't know. You can look at the score and say, yeah, what happened? Well, what happened is we actually beat a team that was very good that day, and what happened was they scored 14 points with 3 or less seconds left on the shot clock when we actually defended the entire possession for the most part. You know what happened is their length really bothered us, kind of like Kentucky did, as far as us over penetrating things like those are things that I think that we can correct. But I did think we guarded pretty well. We won by 4 and guarded our asses off. I'm just going to tell you that right there. So I'm not going to apologize for that. I'm not sure we could have defended them much better the last 10 or 12 minutes of the game.
Hey, Bill, this may be a basketball 101, but I'm wondering how important guard play is for any team to be successful.
Well, Jerry, it's, you know, I've always thought if you had good guard play was most important. And then if you had, what's second most important is if you have a big guy that you can play through, run offense through, and a big guy that can protect the rim. I think times have changed. I think if you play 4 guards, 3 of them got to be able to stretch it. I think if you play 4 guards, 2 of them got to be able to get their shoulders past people. It's a little bit different. I used to play on the perimeter. Well, we want to play 3 guards, and 2 of them have to be able to shoot. You're going to run bad offense, only 1 can shoot. 2 of them have to be able to shoot. I've changed. I think that everybody needs to be able to be a threat. You know, and I can't speak to Kentucky at all because I just saw them the one day. But they're going through some similar things that we're going through. You know, their guard play is very young. Our guard play isn't as young, but we had guys playing in positions that they never played before. And I do think it takes time to get comfortable and those sorts of things. But if it used to be, you know, how do you guard a big guy? You know, how do you guard Samson? You know, or how do you guard Danny or whatever it is? How do you guard those guys? Now I think the most important thing, how do you keep a guard out of the paint? How do you keep a guy that the hardest thing that has become to guard in basketball is the ball. And you got guys that are really good with the ball. It puts so much pressure on others because you don't have to run a play to get a shot. And if you have a point guard that you have to run a play with to get a shot, it makes it much easier to defend, in my opinion.
And just as a follow, how would you compare the point guard role on the high school level versus the point guard role on the college level?
Well, the misperception about guards is if they're small or short by collegiate basketball standards, they're a point guard, and that's the least true thing in the world. I mean, a point guard's got to be able to understand time, score, momentum, how to pick his spots, how to run a team, how to have intangibles. There's so many things that go on with it, but it's amazing to me. You watch somebody play in high school or in an AAU game, and this isn't being negative at all. They bring the ball up the court, and so everybody assumes because they bring the ball up the court or they initiate that they're a point guard, and that's not true at all. There's very few, in my opinion, true point guards that probably come into college as true point guards. I think there's a lot more that learn how to play it once they get into college.
Hey,
What do you-
Bill. Oh, go ahead, Gary.
What do you want to see out of David this game?
Well, same thing as always. I want to see him be a presence. I want to see him have balance. I want to see him give opponents something to guard, and I also want him to be a guy that is certainly a deterrent to other people getting to the basket. So nothing's really changed with David at all. I think there's some technique things he can do a little bit better to certainly put him in position to maybe score before he catches or catch it a step deeper rather than at 6 or 7 feet. But there's things that, I mean, he did some better things against obviously against Washburn, and then of course against North Dakota State. It didn't really translate to made baskets against North Dakota State, but I did think he did some things much better. He's going to be fine, folks. He's going to be fine. It's just been a little bit different than the way we had anticipated starting, based on how practice has gone, because he scored at will in practice. And like I said all along, he's been our best player consistently since August 1. Up until when the game started. So I'm very confident that we're going to get out of him exactly what we thought we would at some point in time, and hopefully it's sooner rather than later.
Hey, it seems like he's shooting over people a lot when he gets post touches. I mean, does he need to find more angles? Is that one of those technique things you're talking about?
Well, if you followed us, what you guys have for years, our big guys always scored off of creating angles. Yeah. Always. If you look at Gonzaga, in Timmy and how he played, unbelievable job in scoring off of getting guys angles. And then after you get an angle, then you can play to if he's on high side, low side, whatever. We're getting way too much stuff where a guy is posting with a defender dead behind, and we haven't done anything to move him around. So we've got to do more misdirection things like that, to maybe even a big guy screening his own man, so to speak, to create angle opportunities. Doak wasn't great at it. He got pretty good at it, and I think David is better at it than what he's shown so far. But I also think teams have defended us pretty wisely too.
Bill, can you talk more about their point guard Marcus, and he 4-1 assist to turnover, and then the matchup with our Marcus and what he might be able to do?
I think he's great. I think he's terrific. We had a chance in the first game to go against what was probably the most physically gifted point guard in the country, in Suggs. And we saw him on a day which he was spectacular. To me, Marcus is maybe has a better chance to be a first-team All-American even than Suggs does, because of his ability to play at different speeds, and he can certainly he can shoot it, he can handle it. His assist to turnover ratio is terrific. Their whole teams, they take care of the ball. Their whole team does. But his feel is terrific. He's fun to watch. He and Mitchell out there together, that's two pretty good guards that are really hard to guard, and they complement each other so well. But I think it'll be a great matchup for Marcus. It's kind of when you switch a lot. If I was Marcus, I'd be pretty upset because we switch a lot, because this would be the type of game that he would want to guard the other team's best player. And even the Gonzaga game, everybody made a big deal about their point guard, who was fabulous. He whipped us. Getting 21, or 24, and they always equated it to getting it on Marcus because he was our point guard. Well, Marcus probably guarded him 20% of the time. It's so this is one time where I think when you switch, it does players a little bit of a disservice, because I think guys want to look at the stat sheet and say, my guy got this. I think there's pride in that. And when you switch so much, even though you can become a better defensive team, it doesn't have that same feel. So it'll be a great matchup when they're on each other. I'm just not sure they're going to be on each other near as much as what fans would probably like to see.
Bill, this is one of those games that can have Selection Sunday implications. What are your thoughts on a 68-team tournament in one city, the way the NCAA is proposing it right now?
Okay. Did you say a 16-team tournament or a 68-team tournament?
68-team tournament in one city, which is what the NCAA has proposed.
Well, to be honest with you, I just hope we have a tournament. I just hope we play. We could play in Indy. We could play in Florida, Alaska, New Mexico, Kansas. It makes no difference. Let's just play. And I think and I hate to say this, is it perfect? No, but this isn't going to be a perfect world year. I think the opportunity to do what we can and have the protocols in place to ensure that we have a tournament, I think is the most important thing. I think last year everybody would have been giddy after the initial disappointment, say, okay, everybody go to Indy and we're going to have a bubble. Everybody would have been fantastic with that. After the initial disappointment, said, oh, that's not the way it's always been. Well, this is going to be a situation where it's never going to be, or it's not this year ever going to be the way it's always been. So I'm actually fine with that. I do think this game has seeding implications, and I think that was maybe your point also, in that, if we're successful tomorrow, it's too early in the season to try to figure out what the seeding is. But when you're out adding it all up and you say, well, that's a top 10 win, regardless of who wins tomorrow, I think that goes a long way in helping create a better seed line for you, even if it's just one or two. So I think this is a big game for both teams in regards to NCAA implications.
All right, you talk about the need to get Christian Brown going. How do you make that happen?
Well, Christian has been, he was not good. He was fabulous against St. Joe's. And Kentucky, he didn't shoot the ball well, but, guys, what did he get, 13 or 14 rebounds? He's had a way to impact our team, regardless if the ball's going in the hole. I get a little frustrated with him at times because I don't think he realizes how good a shooter he is. I think that he turns down some looks that as good as he is, he needs to not pass those up and realize that him shooting an open shot is the best offense we can run. So I think a little bit with him is just his aggressiveness and those sorts of things, which I know that he's more than capable of doing. But I think he defers a little bit too much. I think he needs to be the type of guy that is looking to score the ball for us, as opposed to just being a blend guy like he was last year. He needs to be more than that this year. And I think he's figuring it out. He certainly did in the second game.
All right, Coach. Thank you.